Let's switch to straight up new promotion mode. What guests have you revealed so far this year? And for the people that don't know, where would we know them from?
Okay, well, I got 2 shows. I'm going to real quick jump on to CT GamerCon. CT GamerCon's coming up in April. That's over at Mohegan. This will be the 7th year. Originally, it was all video games. Then it was Pokemon. Then it was Magic the Gathering stuff. Then I started getting voice actors. I got the voice of a fellow from Super Mario Brothers and all this. And then I noticed it was big. Five Nights at Freddy's, a kid named Kellen Goff. And then I said, oh, voice actors are a big deal because I didn't know how big a deal it was until I started seeing the lines for them. Now we do anime. So I've had folks from Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption 2, Mortal Kombat. Again, I just know video games, but these people are just as big as Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Keanu Reeves are to movies. They are to the fans of video games and anime. So we have a bunch of folks coming there. And that you can just see at ctgamercon.com. You can see the list. But my baby, my Terrificon, that turns 9 years old this year. So far, we've got Michael Rooker coming back. And again, you can find all this at Terrificon.com. It's Terrificon, Terrificon. Right. It named itself because when I was looking for a new name for the show, when I couldn't use the other name, I was like, everybody always comes walking out of the shows and go, what a terrific con, what a terrific Comic Con. And it so happens terrific ends with a C. So all I did was put an ON and trademark a new name. And I remember my trademark lawyer called up. He goes, you created a new word in the lexicon. There is no such thing as Terrificon, but there is now. So I feel like Daniel Webster in the dictionary. I just made a new word. So anyway, we got Michael Rooker coming back, a repeat guest, because he's phenomenal. Walking Dead, Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy. My God, Cliffhanger, JFK, Slither. He's been in so many movies. I'm funny. Mallrats. Speaking of Mallrats, I haven't announced it yet, but I don't know when this is going to air. I have Jeff Anderson and Brian O'Halloran, who was show in Bridgeport 10 years ago.
Yeah, he
the
was.
Clerks guys, their 30th anniversary of Clerks is this year, and I got Randall and Dante coming to the show this year. Ming Chen, a friend of ours from Comic Book Men, is coming back. He hasn't been here in a couple of years. Ming will be back this year.
Awesome.
Dave DeSmolchin, who you don't think you might know that name, but you know the guy. If you've seen the Ant-Man movies, if you've seen The Dark Knight, if you've seen Oppenheimer, if you've seen Dune, this guy is in everything.
Suicide Squad. He
was Polka Dot Man. And not only that, Dave DeSmolchin.
He's on The Flash.
He's on The Flash. He was Abracadabra. Yes, there you go. He is a comic book fan. So much so, he's living the dream. He's written his own comic book character called Count Crowley, which is kind of like a Svengoolie, Elvira horror host type of thing, but it's a really horror comic thing.
Yeah, that's the one he's working on with McFarlane, Mitch?
He does this for Dark Horse. I don't know if he's got McFarlane involved, but I know he does these for Dark Horse Comics. Okay. So he's going to be there. Not only that, he takes free photographs and free autographs for fans. So line up for that guy. We had a guy years ago that did that. Remember Maximilian Hernandez?
Oh, yeah. From S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, he was like, I never did a con before. And I called him up. And he's like, yeah. And he was the nicest guy as well. Took a train from the Bronx, just drove in. Free autographs all weekend. And then when you go to watch the Avengers or Winter Soldier, you're like, Agent Sitwell was at my show. And he was one of the nicest guys you'll ever see. Who else is coming? Dave DeSmolchin, Michael Rooker. Nolan North is a Connecticut guy, New Haven guy, likes like me. But if you ever played the games Uncharted, he's the voice of the character, Nathan Drake. And he's like a rock star to people, you know? And plus he's done 1,000 other voices. That's the great thing about voice actors. You see their resumes and you're like, what is this? And before you know it, they've been in like 4,000 movies.
Guy Gardner in Young Justice.
Yeah, he's all over the place. He was the Connor Superboy in Young Justice as well. Because I make the graphics for him, so I know who they are. I have to go find the images and make the collage and stuff. Who haven't I revealed yet? I'm working on some really big names, and when I mean big names, like one-day guests. But one of the biggest guests we have is from the world of comic books, if I got to diverge to my comic book love, is Mr. Jim Lee. Now, Jim Lee, again, X-Men, Batman, and now he's the president and publisher of DC Comics. He's like the head of the whole shebang at this point now. Worked on the Image books years ago. He was one of the founding fathers of the Image with Liefeld, McFarlane, Eric Larson, Jim Valentino. He was part of the original 6 or 7, I think. He's coming to the show Saturday only, so that's going to be a phenomenal thing. You've obtained the big status. It used to be Neil Adams, God rest his soul. When he came to your show, it was like the Pope gave you a blessing. So now we've got the new Pope. Mr. Lee is coming to the show, so that we've got the blessing from Jim Lee at Terrificon. That's making a lot of fans happy this year. Chris Claremont coming back for the 3rd time, comic book wise. Mark Waid
creator
from Kingdom Come. Yes. What'd you say?
I said Starlin, creator of Thanos.
No, Jim Starlin always comes back. Love that guy. We made a 10-foot statue in his honor that you can see when you walk into the place. It's a 10-foot Thanos statue. Jim wanted to buy it and put it in his front yard to scare all the squirrels away, but it's not weatherproof, so.
You talk about being blessed, and you follow up from Jim Lee, and you go right into other legends. You're like, and Mark, You're multi-blessed.
The funnier thing is, I grew up in grammar school in the 70s and high school reading all these things, all these comics. And, Mike Zack called me when I was 14, when I was 17. I was going to go to art school instead of college. And Mike Zack from The Punisher and all that stuff, he lived in New Haven, and he would get his comics at the same shop I did. And my mom would bump into him and say, "Oh, Michael, he doesn't know what he wants to do after high school. He could draw. Oh, I'll call him up." And then one night, there's the phone. There's no caller ID. "Hello, is this Mitch?" "Yeah." "Hey, it's Mike Zack. Your mom told me to call you." And I'm like, "Oh my God, Mike Zack's on the phone." Yeah. So he did that. And then years later, he's a guest at my show. And it's one of those weird, surreal moments when you're like, "Hey, remember when you called me?" He's like, yeah, I remember that when you were like 16, 17. I'm like, "Yeah." And now you're here. So I've had a chance to work with people in my professional convention that I grew up worshiping. And what's so funny? I always call them Mr. out of just a sign of respect, but that's, to me, they're Mr. Romita, Mr. Jansen, Mr. Simonson, and they're like, "Oh, Mitch, what are you doing? Call me Walter, or call me this." I'm like, because I'm still that nerdy kid deep down. I got to look cool in front of them. I can't let them see that deep down there's a 12-year-old little kid inside me going, "Oh my God, Walter Simonson is talking to you."